Life and business can be easy, but us silly humans love getting in our own way. My name is Nico Rapclis, and I've had a wild journey. From releasing traumas that I held on to for decades, to playing college athletics, working with multi-million-dollar brands, having a spiritual awakening, and now coaching incredible humans navigate their inner and outer world. The Just Grow podcast is my outlet to share and help others with life and business. After investing north of $100,000 into my personal and professional development, the Woo plus Do formula is what has served me best. A healthy combination of mindset, energetics, consciousness, spirituality, self-healing, and discovery, matched with a high-level strategy, principles, focus, optimization, and accountability to help you be, do, and have everything that has been placed in your heart. This podcast is for the impact-driven entrepreneur that is finally ready to start thriving internally and externally. Welcome to Just Grow. Yo, what's happening, my friends? Welcome to the Just Grow podcast. My name is Nico Rapclis. If you're new around these parts, I am the host. So we had an incredible interview with my new and good friend, Armin Shafee. And Armin's got a cool story. He's amassed a lot of success in his life in terms of the business world and high ticket sales. But ironically enough is we didn't talk about anything about that, right? And this was one of the most profound conversations I've had in my entire life. It really changed my perspective in a lot of ways and helped me truly understand what is important, what matters, what truly gives me happiness and fulfillment in this life. And you're not going to want to miss a single second of this episode. Now, before we do jump into this one, I want to remind you of the next Just Grow podcast live event. It's going to be on November 16th with Katie Kylene. It's going to be incredible. We're going to do a guided meditation that we've already recorded that we've injected so much beautiful energy into, and then we're going to have a powerful conversation. So go ahead and go over to justgrowpodcast.com if you want to learn more about that. And then if you want to learn more about our Woo and Do framework, we have a free Skool community, so you can go over there. Their links will be down below. And then we also have a free video that shows you exactly how this process works of the Woo and Do to really become the most abundant, fulfilled, happiest, most successful, best version of yourself. So head on over there. All the links are down in the video description and the show notes. Appreciate you being on this particular episode. Let's jump into this interview with Armin Shafee. What's up, brother?
Good to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you on the podcast. Thanks for jumping on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So yeah, man, I would love to, we had a great conversation. We got introduced by a mutual friend that I just recently got connected with. He spoke very highly of you, and we jumped on a call and had a great chat. And so we're like, I think this deserves to be recorded and go a bit deeper. So I'd love to hear a little bit about your story, how you got into entrepreneurship, how you got into the world of personal development and spirituality, and then we'll just keep riffing from there.
Yeah, I spent about 10 years in the entrepreneur's world. I call it the achiever's world. 10 years straight of chasing what I want. And only recently did I really understand the meaning of not chasing what you want so you can create space to see what wants you. In the journey of chasing, you learn a lot of things. First is you start to realize the power of this mind we have. I got the privilege of teaching Think and Grow Rich with the president for 6 years or so. Still friends with him. He's still like a father to me in many ways. In that time, I learned, I got obsessed with one author, which is Napoleon Hill. All I wanted to learn was everything he learned, who built the first practical philosophy for success. So I read about 13 different books of his. Maybe I lost count, I don't know. But I can count at least 13. Maybe I read more. And I read some of them multiple times over and over. Yeah. Something happens when you study an author, not just a book. You start to really realize what they were trying to teach you in the first book, because Napoleon Hill teaches the same thing he was teaching in so many different ways in the other books. One of my favorite books is How to Own Your Own Mind. He breaks down the mind faculties in that one. That one goes really deep.
And that's
how to own your own mind.
Interesting.
And the other ones, that's not really the more famous ones. It's like you got to go in the archives to find them. Yeah. That one breaks down faculties of the mind. It's like the most practical. It's like a science book. It's really cool. And I remember reading that and I'm just like, wow, like the mind is so much vaster than we think. And even then, if you go into the Eastern philosophies, they'll break down the mind to 16 sections. So he was only just seeing the first 4 versions of this, the first 4 levels of this mind.
Wow.
So you learn a lot when you're chasing what you want, because when you're really adamant about getting what you want, you you will find the ways and the means to figure out how to bring it to life. So I learned a lot about manifesting, a lot about using my mind to an end. It's funny because I don't do any of that now.
Mm-hmm.
Someone asked me just yesterday, I was at dinner with someone and he was a sales guy. So, he was getting my mentorship for, right, how to achieve more, but he also, something in him felt like something's missing. So he wanted to bring this new concept that I've been experimenting with in my life, surrendering. He wanted to kind of bring this into his life. He was wondering, he'd say, how do you surrender, but also have goals and all this? I said, you can, there's a way, but real surrender means you have no goals. So all your outward goals turn inward. So the goal to make money, to build something, to find love, to do all this, it goes inward, to know God, to know yourself, to know truth, to have a liberation from your own mind. So this world is at least this industry, the ones that I've been in and the one you're in, and it's split. It's really you would say spirituality would be split into these two things, and then we could talk about how there's none of this is really spirituality, but there's consciousness, right? And then there's what we think is spiritual. But see, there's split into two things. One is self-actualization, one is self-realization. So I've learned that self-actualization is the setting of goals and becoming someone. This is like the world of Jim Rohn and Tony Robbins and Napoleon Hill and anything that makes you feel good, even down to Jerry and Abraham Hicks, right? And even spiritual work about manifesting what you want. Self-actualization is about becoming someone. Self-realization is the letting go of your own ego and becoming no one. It's a complete opposite path. And it's funny because I walked the self-actualization path 10 years. I made all my millions of dollars I wanted to, and I drove the cars I wanted. I got any girl that I wanted to. I mean, not any girl, but you know what I mean? I was abundant in a lot of the areas. I had the body I wanted at one point. I had the awards, the accolades, all the awards are sitting right there on the ground. I have no association to anything that I achieved. And if you achieve it long enough, you actually realize it doesn't tell you who you are. That no matter how much you achieve, how much you manifest, something in you feels like something's missing. So eventually, everyone inevitably comes to the same conclusion that there's something more than even our own mind. But for 10 years, I taught this mind. 6 years, I taught this mind, and I engulfed in this mind. I thought everything was here, the mind. No. So I realized I've been living a self-actualist life, and I wanted to self-realize. I wanted to see, what is this? And so the path of self-realization is the path of surrender. That's not officially what it is. If you actually look up self-realization, it was brought to America by a guy named Yogananda, by a yogi, who was taught. He was taught it by an avatar named Babaji. So I'm not a self-realization teacher or anything like this. You can always go and learn their stuff. I study their stuff too. It's very beautiful. But I'm a big fan of also the author Michael Singer. So he wrote a book called Untethered Soul. This book helped me in a bad place I was in. He helped me realize I'm not the voice in my mind. It was a very beautiful book I started to practice in my life. I didn't know he had a second book called The Surrender Experiment. Apparently, he has a third one called Living in Surrender. I can't wait to read this. But The Surrender Experiment I read a few years ago, but I wasn't ready to really embody what it was saying. I just thought, oh, that's a really cool thing. He went on to build a billion-dollar company without even wanting to. He had no goals, no vision, no any of the stuff that self-actualization teaches. But he was thrown into service devotionally so many times that things just erupted into it being a huge need, and he was just at service. So he served his way to billion-dollar company. And this is a very interesting concept for achievers because they think the only way to get there is to work your way there, Hermosiate there, like God bless that guy. That guy's an animal, right? Nothing wrong with it. But I know I used to believe at least that's the only way there. But no, there's a whole other way. In fact, the other way is far more peaceful. In fact, it's in peace. You would even argue achievers have no peace. They have happiness. There's a big difference. Happiness and peace are not the same thing. See, happiness is like an itch. See, if you get an itch, what do you feel? You feel relief, don't you? So isn't it sad that happiness is us relieving ourselves of an irritation? This is happiness. See, if I'm sitting trying to have dinner, but I can't because I need to take a big piss. Am I enjoying the dinner? No, I have to take a piss. So I take a piss. It's like we're pissing our life away when we're chasing happiness. Because we constantly have the itch and we have to scratch. Now, if you scratch one, is it over? No. You scratch one, two will pop up, and then five and six, and you start scratching your back. And if you walked across me on the street, I'm there scratching like this, you would think I have something or I'm on something. But this is how we live our life, especially achievers. We're sitting there scratching over and over. We're scratching our way through life. It's painful because the more we chase the itch to scratch to relieve ourselves, the more itching we have to do. So peace is different. Whereas happiness is chasing the next need. I need money. I need love. I need this. I'm lonely. So it's just trying to always relieve yourself of being unsettled, not being still. Peace is complete opposite. Peace is having no itches. Now, some people hear that and go, what do you mean? So I have no goals, no desires, no needs, no wants? That's a terrible way to live. I go, no. It means you'll have all of them and you'll actually enjoy it. I go, what do you mean? I go, well, let's say I take you to golf. See, in golf, the game is about relaxation. It's an attitude game. The more stressed you are, the worse you play. The more relaxed you are having fun, the better you play, period. That's how this game works. If you're itching, you can't focus. So when you're at peace, you can actually play this game. There's no itch. There's no irritation I have to relieve myself. Now, what is an itch? It's like attachment, isn't it? What if I say, let's play this game, man. Let's go do these 18 holes. But if you lose, I take your house from you. What? You go, can you play now comfortably? Now you'll really try your best, but the harder you try to play, the worse you'll play and you will lose. This is what explains power versus force. It's a good book on this. So the more force creates resistance. Why? Because the harder you try, the more you're going against your true nature. There's no peace in the doing. Now, let's say I said, let's play a game. It doesn't matter if you win or lose. I'm still going to give you a free house at the end of it, just to thank you for playing with me. So you could be like, really? You'd be like, yeah. Oh, okay. So not only now are you playing, you can enjoy the game, but whether you win or lose doesn't even matter anymore. Why? Because you've already won. And so walking a path of peace is that you realize you've already won. So you play like a winner. You don't play to win. This is a complete different way of thinking. Achievers don't see this. Because the achiever's sole motivation is from the source of, I am not there yet. That's what keeps me going. This is exhausting eventually. It drains the soul. And if anyone is honest with themselves, they know they're not at peace. They might say they're happy, but they can't say they're at peace. And I talked to someone today. He goes, yeah, I think I'm in peace. I'm like, you're either pregnant or you're not. Peace is like this. You either have it or you don't. There's not like more peaceful. No, you're just more happy. Maybe you're relaxed. None of these are peace. What is peace, though? See, to know peace is to know God. There is no peace without God. What we experience as peace is what we're experiencing as our own divine nature within, our true nature. And you don't need to take my word for it. Just sit down still in a meditation and don't move a muscle until you can't feel your body. You'll go to the place where you know what I'm saying. So when we know peace, we're living through our true nature. This is a complete different path, in which case we don't need to be anyone. We don't need to do anything. You go, but Armin, does that mean we'll stop doing? I go, no, then that means you'll fully do it. Because you're never fully doing when you're attached to what happens by doing it. So this is the kind of experiments I'm running now in my life. And just in the last 4 months, I've been doing this for 127 days now. I've documented every day of my life. So I have every single little moment that happened, every internalization, every belief, every thought that passed my mind, every decision I made, every event that occurred in my life. It's just been documenting. I don't know how long I'll go. I'll keep going though. They're private. No, it's not public. It's just recorded every day like a podcast episode. And I can tell you just in the last 4 months, I've lived more than I have in the last 10 years. And in the last 60 days, I've come to realize who I am more, what I'm meant to do more, and to know God in truth and peace more than I have in all of the peaks of the mountains I climbed with my mind, becoming something and someone. So when you're on this path of peace, you would say the path is peace. People say, how do I find peace? I go, you are the peace you're looking for.
Hmm.
The spirituality is not about addition, it's about subtraction, isn't it?
Hmm.
You don't add your way to God or to who you are. You take away all that is not you. Spirituality is about not becoming spiritual. It's about unbecoming what is making you think you're not. So in this way, reaching truth is like we are a wave in an ocean. To reach truth, the higher the wave we can make, the further we are away from truth.
There's so many thoughts on all of that. But also like even within you speaking on all of that, it's like I almost feel like that's even like the achiever part of my mind. Being like, what? Asking more questions around it or the
No, questioning is okay. Seeking truth is not achiever's mind. Seeking truth is actually our own deep, deep down behind the mind's noise. There is a curiosity. That's the soul trying to awaken. The part of us that wants to know, not to understand, to know. There's a difference.
Hmm.
The part of us that wants to know is the part of us who is us, who's trying to wake up beyond the illusions of our mind. The part of us that wants to understand, that's ego. Because we want to control it, and we can't control it if we don't understand it. The ego in the mind, it thrives off certainty, and all certainty is false. This is the exact opposite of what I used to teach people and help all these people make millions of dollars. I teach them how to use their mind. And I look back and I go, there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. But we just need to make sure we're honest that it doesn't mean it is, you know who you are now. You know who you made yourself to be. There's a difference. And there's two paths in this life. There's the path of ego, is to chase the happiness, to become someone. And then there's the path of fate, is that you already had a contract with God that something was meant for you. If you want to know, it's just an open invitation. He doesn't need you to know. It's not like a responsibility. I need to find my purpose in life. No, it's more like the point that we have free will is that we can do whatever we want in this life. That's fine. And so for those of us that choose, they go, well, I want to know what God wanted
Hmm.
because I want to know who I really am, not who I have been told I need to be or who I think I need to be. That path is where you remember who you are. You remember what you know. Truth can't be learned. It can only be remembered because it's a part of who you are.
Hmm.
So that path is a complete opposite one. It's the surrendering and the letting go of all your desires, all your likes, your dislikes, your preferences, your wants, your not wants, your fears, your goals, your visions. You go, but Armin, how do you do stuff? I go, it's a different way of living. I don't blame you to be resistant towards it. I don't blame you. I understand. Even I was stubborn and I was like, but I experimented finally when I had nothing left to cling to. So it is very hard when you have things you're attached to. I had nothing left to attach to. So it was very easy for me to just go, finally, after many years, I think I really want to experiment. And I think how foolish, how long I waited.
Hmm. That was even going to be something that popped up for me. There's so many, like I said, so many ways I want to respond to everything that you just said, which was beautiful. Because I feel like I'm starting to venture in this direction as well. I actually, my last book that I finished was Untethered Soul. I reread it, and then the one I just started the other night is this guy.
I was meaning to read this one too. Apparently that's like the equivalent of the surrender experiment. So
Oh,
it's about surrender experiment is more of a story though.
yeah,
So you get to
I've read
hear
that.
how
It's
Michael
really
went
good.
through surrendering in his life.
Hmm.
I haven't read Letting Go yet. I've heard it's good.
So I mean, a few questions that pop up is because like I have been much more into the you said it's actualization is the first one.
Self-realization. Yeah, yeah.
That's realization.
Self-realization is the second one. This is the second one.
Okay. And so
Actualization is becoming something. Realization is unbecoming.
okay. So the actualization, like uh the Napoleon Hill and
Yes.
the Jim Rohn
Now,
and
you
all.
know what's crazy? At the end of his life, he actually became a realist. And that's not a realist, a realizationalist. because his last book ever was Grow Rich with Peace of Mind, in which he has a point in the book where he says nothing ultimately matters.
Yeah.
He pretty much unbecame everything he taught in Think and Grow Rich. And he said, look, if you want to live a successful life and get what you want, this is the manual. Do these things. He goes, but just remember, nothing ultimately matters. None of it's real. And
And
that's what he came to.
yeah, and like all these teachers, like the Jim Rohns,
Mhm.
like why is that not a piece that anybody shares in that realm?
Because it is not of what is true. It's of what is positive. Okay, look at it like this. It's a good conversation. See, at the lowest level is the body, the sensations. This is our first level of awareness. Behind this even is the mind. It's the mental plane. The mind is what rules this world. That's why the world is split between good and evil, because only duality exists on a mental plane.
Hmm.
But even beyond this mind, where we're from. We're not a product of the mind, or else the first thing the fetus is born into in the body, it would have its own mind. If we were born out of a mind, we're not. We're given a mind. So what were we before a mind is the question. Beyond even this is awareness. And I would say awareness is not even what you are. Awareness is like your eyes of your soul. So even beyond this is the consciousness, the soul, the eternal part of you. In Hindu, they call it Satyananda, which is eternal conscious bliss. This is actually what we are.
Hmm.
But from this, we're tethered into what? What's tethered to us is this body. And between us and this body is a mind. Because if we were just spirit in a body, we'd be walking around like God. We'd be walking around bending matter, right?
Hmm.
But in order to operate this world, like with our own free will, God had to give us a free a mind. See, if I remove your mind from you, you have no choice. You're just bound to whatever the body is or whatever the spirit is. That's why we have more power than you would say angels and demons and all this stuff. Now, I don't necessarily call it these things, but you have more power than spirit because we are an extension of God himself, our soul. So far as my understanding. So even beyond this mind, where duality exists, there's good, there's bad, there's then, there's past, there's future, all of these constructs that we invented. Beyond this even then is consciousness. This is where all things are like merged into one. It's just the ocean. This is why the further and the bigger the wave you make, the further you are from truth. Because the more noise you make, the further you go away from the home, the source of where you're tethered from. Ocean is the truth. This is God. We are one with God. So in this way, God is us, but we are not God. Because to be human, we must have the individualism. To be human with an ego and all this stuff. But God is us. It's just that we are not God. It's important to understand this. So awareness is the eyes of the soul.
Okay.
And what we are is eternal consciousness. So if you really keep going higher, higher, higher up, I mean, at some point you start feeling high without taking anything because you're like awakening. Awakening feels like this. It feels kind of weird. For some people that aren't ready, it'll feel very weird. They'll start to feel almost afraid, like they have a psychosis, like the reality melts down. Some people have bad trips on psychedelics, but without just a psychedelic, just if I talk with you, you might go there. And some people, they start to feel high in a very blissful way. I was having dinner with this young man yesterday, and it's the salesman. And I gave him an analogy that at the end of it, he was like, I feel high. I'm like, isn't it beautiful? See, his heart was very ready for this kind of awakening. Like, isn't it beautiful that this isn't real? That we're more than what is even happening here. We're one with the creator himself. It's beautiful, man. So in the mental plane, there's good, there's bad, there's positive, there's negative. So all personal development is the entire industry that it exploits the law of attraction. I say exploits like they use it. It is exploitation. You're using it to your own self, to your own benefits. Now be careful of the ones that use law of attraction say it's for God. No, it's not. It's very messy, very gray area. Because see, those people, they may not know themselves separate from their mind. They may. but they may not. And if they don't know themselves separate from their mind, they have no idea what is God. They are just experiencing miracles, but to do miracles or no miracles doesn't mean you know God. It even says this in scripture, like, be careful. There's even like what is not God could create signs and wonders. And I say, okay, so that means God is not, so that's not exclusive. There's only one exclusivity with God, truth. Absolute stillness and silence of the mind. Absolute consciousness. That's the only exclusivity. Only God can be this with us. Nothing else. There's no opposite opposing force, nothing. No one could just cheat it. That's what I love about truth is that you can't cheat. Even for me to come into this interview and talk about it, I have to come down from that consciousness into an intellectual plane to explain it. I know myself, I have to be out of this awareness. But if I really want to, like right before this podcast, I was sitting down in total stillness and I was nothing. I was no one, self-absolved. And I was just sitting there. And then I tether back in the body. So this is the relationship between higher consciousness and what we are. And so if you go into the Eastern side of the world, or the real spiritual masters of the world that teach, and I'm not one, I'm still learning, I'm a student. We all are. In fact, they even know they are still. Keep their mind open. They pray. A true yogi prays for liberation. I learned this one. It's very beautiful. A yogi is always praying for liberation, nothing else. So what he's always manifesting is more freedom from his own mind. How crazy is that? And he could walk between two different dimensions at all times, at will. So in this world, in the mental plane, people want to come out of the negative side of living experience. That's fine. Personal development is amazing for them. The Jim Rohns, the Tony Robbins, the motivation, whatever it takes for them to take a destructive mind to a constructive mind. But it doesn't mean they still know that they are more than this mind. I do one-on-one calls every day right now with people, all walks of life, and many people that have made money too. And people that have no money. And even the ones that are like having that good life, I can hear they actually don't know their true nature yet, but they're enjoying the process and the experience of enjoying what this mind could do for them. So they're identified with all of the good things in their life. And I go, okay, it's good. But any form of identity is just ego. It doesn't matter if ego isn't just bad. Ego can be good too, but it doesn't mean it's true. So in this way, there's left side, right side, and then there's the true side. So this is all I see it as now. And I've lived both. I've lived all three now. I'm living the real one now, the true one now. But I first came in the poor one. I didn't grow up in a family that had anything. I also grew up with insecurities. We all grew up with certain undigested balls of emotion in us. These lacks, these insecurities, our damaged egos. And so we set these goals and these desires. But really, what we're setting is not goals. We're setting solutions to problems we feel inside. This is why I don't trust my mind to set. That's why I don't have goals, because I don't trust my mind to tell me what I should want. Because my mind is still my ego is still hurt from something. It's still trying to seek something that's out of the false idea that I am not enough yet. So I don't want to know what I want. I want to know what God wants. To surrender our will to God is just this, to surrender our ego and surrender to see what comes to us, because that's what's meant for us. So I went from the negative and to the positive, turned my whole life around, did all the stuff, which is, I said, it's good. It's a better way to live. But still, is it who we are? We'll never know in those places. Mind cannot tell you who you are. It can only tell you who you used to be, who you should be, and who you can be. But it'll never tell you who you really are.
Where does intentions play in all this?
It's a good question. See, intention is kind of like this. Intention is our free will and what we use it towards. I learned this one actually recently, which was at first very frightening. And then I thought, wow, what a beautiful poetic truth. See, you can develop practices that give you psychic ability. There are specific practices you can do if you are persevering of it, where you can start to read people's minds. You can be in two places at once. You can read cards without looking at them. You could see with no eyes. There's a sixth sense ability you can develop. It has nothing to do with knowing God. I used to think raising my vibrations is to reaching God more. It has nothing to do with reaching God more. See, God is already here with us. He's in the very breath of every breath you take. He's living within the very nature of who we are. So all of these people that think they're doing things to get to God, they're in a false hallucination. So God is already in us, is already here. To know him is to know love, to know peace, to know joy. It's to have total absence of your own ego. You become one with this God. But to raise your vibration, to develop psychic abilities, to do all these things people do, with their body and their minds. And this is just to show you what being human, what you're capable of. Because being human is super. There's no such thing as superhuman. Being human is super. We have supernatural abilities if you have the patience to develop them. And so I started to do some of these practices. And I started to really see like what my own mind is capable of. Now that I know I'm not the mind, I get to actually go in it and train this thing, not just with positive affirmations, because that's a very small way to use the mind, by the way. It's crazy. Like all of TGR and what I used to teach, like it's a very, very mundane way to use the mind, just to get yourself to believe you are someone so you can do certain things so you can have money. Like it's kind of funny how small that is compared to what it can really do. If you develop incredible concentration with the mind, you can perform miracles. So I'm sitting here and I'm learning this, and I'm starting to see some progress, and I'm like, wow, this is really cool. And then at this moment, I'm like, while I'm doing this, I'm not even thinking about God. I'm not really feeling God or feeling the presence of God or love in me like I do when I talk to people about God, or when I'm sitting there and I'm just being in total absence, like I'm dissolving myself. And I had this moment where I realized, wow, you can develop psychic powers and have the intention to use them selfishly. So see, intention shows us where our will is going. I can develop psychic powers and I can use it freely with my own will to manipulate people and to get what I want and to control others. I could. I mean, then I look at it, I'm like, any prophet that walked this earth could have absolutely used it for evil. And you would say evil means the absence of God and unconsciousness, and it's just the absence of consciousness. So then I understood why there's such thing as black magic and all this, voodoo and stuff. And I'm like, I never used to believe this stuff. And I'm like, oh, I understand. If you can develop psychic powers and you could do it at your own free will for your own desire, or to do it some made up demon that you believe, yeah, you can start doing some crazy shit. So then I realized just having the ability to do psychic things or powerful stuff, all this stuff has nothing to do with knowing God. So intention is where our heart is. When we do something, why we're doing it, what we're doing it for, that's what determines the kind of what spirit fills our body. So Spirit of God fills our body. Our intention is always in love. I do something, I do it for God. I do it because it's truth. I do it because it's right. Not right in the here. And there's a different sensation you have when you know how to listen to within, not from your head.
You feel it in your heart and you listen to it rather than conjuring it up with your mind.
Right. It's a knowing. In fact, I was teaching this the other day, that an easy way to discern if it is intuition and if it's your head coming in just having a very good sales pitch is whenever you're doing something that you know isn't right, you justify it. So if I say, let's go rob a bank, you go, no. And why not? He goes, wrong. Why do you mean rob a bank? You shouldn't do it. And I go, well, dude, like, it's not even their money. It's taxpayers. So it's kind of like our money, but also insurance covers it. Like, no one gets hurt. See, I'm making a list of good reasons. Now, USA Army, that's actually not bad. You're kind of right. Everyone does get paid. You're fine. Nothing is, yeah, you could absolutely justify doing the wrong thing, but you don't need to justify doing the right thing. See, if I'm walking on the street, someone's hurt and they need help, I don't have to sit there and be like, it'd be kind of odd if I'm like, I should probably help this person because I want to be a good person, right? And also that I don't do that. I just act on what I know. I know it's right to do this. I should go help this person. And so if I asked you, how do you know it's right? No one can answer. And I do a lot of calls. So I get to ask and do market research. How do you know it's right to help the person when they're in need? You go, I don't know. And everyone's answer is the same. You just know. I go, so that proves you can know something without having to understand it. So the question is, what part of you is knowing, even if you don't understand? Because understand is a mental, it's an intellect. But knowing as spiritual, that's the consciousness. So I believe innately in us, when we are in our true nature, when we're seeking God, when we're seeking truth, we actually know really. with a higher level of intelligence beyond even the mind. So it's important to discern, and maybe that's a good practical one for everyone watching, is anytime you find yourself justifying anything, it's probably because it's not right. This one will end a lot of relationships. You'll be sitting there like, I'm with her or with them because he's really good to me, and he's this, and he's this, and he's this, and he's this, and I go, you need them because you don't really love them. Because if you knew you were supposed to be with them, you wouldn't need to justify why you're with them. I've had my personal experience with this. And then sometimes you're with someone, you're just like, I don't know. I just know I'm supposed to be with them. And those people know. You just know. And in fact, it'd be odd to try to list why. It should feel weird to have to justify why you love them. Not list the reasons of what you love about them. But if that is the only thing you're clinging to, it's not genuine, is it? And you can test it out, in your own relationships, business decisions too, everything.
Right. I have a question for you. I think this would be a good one. So, a younger Armin, as he's on his come up to all this business success, what would you say to that guy from your current place right now?
You can do more than what you think you can do. So do all of it while knowing none of it's real. Enjoy it. Play it like a video game. Don't take it seriously. The character in the game is in you. And when you're ready and you want to know what's beyond what you think you need, then ask the deeper questions, the harder ones. Same thing I would tell my younger self is the same thing I'm telling everyone every day. Play this game like play this life like it's a game. None of it's real. What does that mean? What? Because you don't know what to cling to. You don't need to cling at all. It doesn't mean don't live your life. It means to live it from a place of where you're in this world, but you're not of this world.
Which is an interesting one, because even when you were talking earlier about, I don't know if this was the exact words that you used, but being the observer, like that's really the only truth. And that's what Michael Singer says in the Untethered Soul, is that the only way to get to true inner freedom is being the observer. And I thought of this metaphor as I was reading that, and I've been sharing that with some people, is like, imagine that you are actually the drone that's just flying around watching your life.
Yeah.
Even as we're having this conversation, there's a drone flying up there, and it's just like watching these two characters.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Having a conversation.
Yeah, you're getting it.
So what is that like? You say that play life like it's a game.
If you're going to play the game of success and all this other, surface level shit that we all want to chase, if you're going to play the game of chasing, play with your ego, develop the ego into a healthy one. So it's positive and that voice in your head speaks only good to you because you can. And make sure you never take it seriously. See, there's going to be a big problem. There's no problem with the person who becomes what they want to become, becomes successful, gets the money, gets the lifestyle, gets the reputation. There's no problem if they get there, but there's humility in their heart. They go, yeah, if I lose this all, I don't care. But what a fun time. That person actually enjoys the process too.
Mm-hmm.
Person who hates the process is the one who thinks when they're there, they'll know peace. And you have a really big issue if you get to the top of Success Mountain and you actually think you're someone. Now we have a problem. You actually start to think. You identify heavily with who you think you are. Now your waves are so big, you forgot you're coming out of the ocean. You're so far up there, it's like a tsunami. It could swallow a building. You're so far up, you forgot where you started, which is the truth.
I was on a call today. It was really good. I was talking about if you find something, you stop seeking it. And so it's in relation to God. And so not ever feeling like you've truly found God. And that's why it's important to continue to seek God and understand and get to know and get closer to God.
See, you can't get any closer than you already are. God is closer to you than the space that is making the two atoms keeping your body together. There's a good story I heard Ram Dass say once. He went to a yogi after his guru passed. Neem Karoli Baba. And he went to another yogi. He said, I want to know how I can get closer to my guru. And the yogi chuckled. He goes, what do you mean? He goes, I want to get closer to my guru. What can I do? He goes, you can't get any closer to your guru. Your guru is looking through your eyes right now. God is like this. You can't reach him. Where you're reaching out from is where he is. So you go, so what should I seek? So if everything I'm saying is truth, that means there's nothing to do, right? Nowhere to go, nowhere to be, nothing to know. In essence, yes, that is the truth. But see, the world would stop rotating, wouldn't it? If every human being realized they are already the center point of all eternity that they're trying to reach. So the question becomes, what do you do from that place when you realize only right now exists and only eternity is here?
Mm-hmm.
You live this human life the way it was intended to be lived. That's what you do. Now you live walk this earth already from the divinity you are, not under the false illusion that you need to reach this place. I'll give you a really good example. I struggled much through school growing up, and mostly because I had a very low self-esteem. No one really told me I was smart or doing anything. Like, I didn't know, am I good? Am I not good? Until this one class, it was third grade. I didn't really care in the classes. I didn't think it was for me. I didn't believe I was smart. I didn't think it's my place there. So we go into this one class in third grade. I think her name was Miss Omar. God bless her, man. Changed my life. This was out of all the classes we sat in, this was the only class where she did something very different. She sat down on day one of the class and she said, everyone, this is your report card. I'm like, report card, you get that at the end when they grade you to see how smart you are. And she gave us the report card and everyone had an A+. I remember seeing this for the first time, like, I have an A+? Like, I didn't know I can have an A+. And she said something, she said, changed the way I look at life forever, man. She goes, in other classes, you start at 0 and you have to work your way to become an A+ student. In my class, you're an A+ student. You start at A+. And you just have to work to keep it there. Bro. Something woke up in me. I didn't realize I can actually be even that. My worth was so low in my mind. I didn't know I'm even allowed to have this A. That class I scored higher than I think I ever did in my whole high school career too. It was a spelling class. I remember how hard I worked to really prepare for my tests. That one thing that teacher did is this. She started me from fulfillment so I can do the class as an A+ person, as a fully there person. There was no false illusion to have to go to somewhere. So we live our life like this. We should start knowing that we are the very extension of God and divinity himself. That there is nothing more we can be than all that we always are, because that's our true nature. And so we live the rest of our life experiencing this game as a winner, not playing to win something.
That's beautiful. And just such a great way to look at things. And, It's been interesting lately. As I've mentioned, I've been leaning in this direction, and people. It's also been interesting. I'm sure you can relate to this as well. Is like when we throw events, you know, people have a great experience at them, and because I host them, then they come and give me lots of compliments, and it's been a journey of like knowing how to handle that. And lately, what's really been coming to me, in the beginning, it definitely it was an ego boost, and then I didn't really know what to do with it. And then as of late, it's like they recognize that within me because they recognize that within themselves. And so what I'm kind of getting to here now is like people always say, I love your work, I love your work. And what I was like, well, what really is my work? Like, what am I doing?
Hmm.
And the thing that's been coming to me lately is that I'm just holding up a mirror. I'm just showing people who they are. And I used to say it was I'm showing people their potential. But that's like, again, these are just newer realizations, but it's like it's not. It's not their potential. It's not the potential that they can get the A plus. It's I'm just showing that I'm giving them their A plus report card in the beginning of the class, as opposed to saying like you have to work for this A plus.
Yeah.
It's just who you are.
You know what our work is helping each other remind each other the truth. It's all about remembering who we are, not about knowing who we are, not about learning who we are,
Hmm.
finding ourselves. It's about remembering ourselves. So that's what you do. Yeah, people will also give me compliments. I always remember the story of the president of Think and Grow Rich when he was mentoring me. We would teach these classes together. God, I've lived so many lifetimes. One class I remember, we had a class of 30 students, and they all gave a bunch of thank you cards to him at the end of the 3-day seminar for changing their life. It was like a dozen or so thank you cards. I don't know what it was, but I remember it was sitting on the desk, and I said, Satish, look, everyone gave you cards. Where do you want me to put them? He goes, throw them out. I said, what do you mean throw them out? And he was really shaking me up a lot in the beginning because he was mentoring me and breaking so many of my own egoic conditions. He's very wise. He still is very, very, very wise. He is from another place, man. Like his crown chakra, like his intuition mind is like it's up there. It brings down for you the things you'll never even. He was giving me spiritual wisdom like before I even knew what spirituality was. And he goes, yeah, throw them out. It's fine. I'm like, you don't want to read them? He goes, no, I'm fine. I'm like, isn't that mean? Isn't that wrong? They give you like, thank you cards. You should at least. I'm like, what if they know? He goes, Armin. So if I read them and they say they're good, what does that mean? I go, well, nothing, I guess. He goes, if I read them and they say they're bad, should I feel bad? I go, no, because you did a good job. He goes, so the only opinion that matters is what I feel, my intention of the class that I do my best. So there's no need to know what other people thought. I said, but what about feedback? He goes, feedback when I'm asking for a yes. When I myself know that there's something I don't know, I go in. But when I know inside how I did and what I did, and I know in myself, I know myself, and I'm honest, I don't need to know if someone liked it or didn't like it. I'm just doing my part, and whatever they experience out of it is between them and them. He said, Armin, they didn't write me thank you cards for me. They write it from themselves.
Hmm.
So deep. So deep. He told me that. That always shook me up. So it's helped me keep my ego at bay. I still feel like
Relating.
uncomfortable if someone gives a compliment. But what I know is because there's the part of me that's not allowing my ego to step back in. And I just go, whatever I feel, if I feel I was in my heart when I did what I did and I brought my intention for it, that's all that matters because it's just me and God knows. So, and we don't rip away. He goes, I say, so what if someone came to you and said, thank you? Would you just look at them? He goes, no, I'd say you're welcome. Or I would say, thank you. He goes, but I'm just doing it for them. It doesn't matter to me if no one says anything. He's like, I've never asked for a testimonial my entire career. I'm like, well, his marketing is different, but we kind of need them. But he's making a point, you know?
So that really could be considered anytime someone does pay a compliment. It's the cards. It's the thank you cards. The
It's for
compliments for
them.
them.
Yeah,
It's not
it's
for
it's
you.
it's them expressing gratitude for remembering something. You help them remember, but it's like I didn't help you remember. It was in you. And so remembering is the only thing that is a humble way of feeling like you did something, because it's not like I taught you. If I helped you remember, then you're involved. I'm involved. I'm not responsible. So this is all we're really doing in different ways. Even when if your dharma in life, your true nature is to be a singer. And when you sing, people feel heart in their love. They feel waves of energy going through their body. You're also making them remember their true nature. You don't even have to speak anything spiritual. You just speak. You just teach, just sing. They'll come and love you too, because what they're experiencing them is God's love. And you're experiencing God's love when you're in your true nature. Now, when we're not in our true nature, we're just wasting our time in this world, especially if we believe it. This is all it is that we're supposed to live this life in our true nature. How you do that? Surrender. Start your own surrender experiment in your life. Then you'll start to really, that's the real one, man. Michael hit it on the nail. Michael hit it on the nail.
I want to just hear how you respond to this question because I'm very intrigued now. Is like where do you see your life going from here?
The most genuine, honest answer I could give is I don't know. And I don't need to. The moment I start to think I know, I'm not aware anymore. I've identified with what I think I know.
Even like knowing what you're doing tomorrow to that extent?
I have a schedule, but I don't know what it's going to be like. I have people I have to meet. So
Yeah.
I show up, but I don't think about what's going to I don't give a second thought to what I'm about to do. I wait until I'm in that moment because that's when it's happening now. But my right now is about right now. It's not about tomorrow. So tomorrow I have 6 one-on-ones, 7 one-on-ones I'm doing. I'm not thinking about them. This will go against a lot of people's belief systems around preparing for things.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I know a mentor of mine that used to tell me, if you're not preparing, you don't care. There's a lot of business mentors that taught me. I don't think they understood that there is a part of me that was always kind of awake since I was a child, where
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of knew when I get into that moment, I'll know what to do. So in this way, I've been able to go and speak on stages for hours and hours or go on podcasts or whatever interviews. I've taught seminars for 12 hours straight, and all I have is a bullet point in front of me, a list. I don't even look at it most of the time because I don't need to prepare. I don't sit there and practice. But yeah, this is complete anti-Hermosi type style, right? So both paths are existing. You can also be an extraordinary performer in whatever you do without doing any of the stuff Hermosi says, if you are connected to your divine nature.
Mm-hmm.
Because the source of where we are from is infinite. We don't need to control the process of it. So I don't need to practice. I don't need to know where I am going to be. And the truth is, the more time you experience surrendering in your life, and surrendering is not a place you get to, you don't fully ever surrendered. It's a degree. The more you surrender, the more you let go, the more you let God in. This is the only thing I've realized. And that can mean anything. It can mean to the ends of the earth, is going to be a place that you've never been to. And surrender means going where you don't want to go, doing what you don't want to do. It doesn't mean it's going to feel comfortable. In fact, the whole nature of surrender is an uncomfortable process. And so that's why you require faith. And faith is to trust what you don't know, what you don't understand. So that's why you can't bullshit surrender. Because you either know God or you don't, and you trust him or you don't. And you can't do it unless you really trust. I don't need to know where I'm going to be. And the truth is, I'll give you an example. There's times where like no money's coming in because I'm not really thinking about it at all. And then people will ask me, like, what are you going to do? I got this to pay for, that to pay for. I'm like, I just know it's going to be taken care of. I don't know how, when, where. And I don't know where I have a day where I have just maybe 2 calls and I'm not thinking about them. I get on one call and that person is adamant that they want to buy my company, adamant that they want to pay me for consulting, adamant that, and I'm like, oh, okay. And now we're in talks with someone to buy my entire old company, howtogetcoaching.com. And they're adamant. I sent them a lead. And it's funny. It's just when you keep surrendering, you don't need to know the plan. This is the very scary ideology for people that are unawake to. I don't want to label them like that because then I create division. I'm not trying to create division. I'm saying when you're dependent on your own mind and understanding, this is a very scary concept to entertain. Is to never know, but to know that there is a higher and divine plan that's far better than yours. But you can't ever know it until you really trust. So all of it's just about trusting God. Our whole life path is about trusting God. So I meet with this person and they have an incredible product where they build virtual meta worlds for companies so they can really heighten and transform the communication experience between companies and teams and customers. It's a really cool product. And me and this person have a spiritual connection first in our faith. And now I'm helping him with his business. And I don't know where. I'm at a party and I'm at this get together at a friend's house. And again, I don't really want to go. I don't want to do any of this. I want to be alone. I want to be sitting down in silence or just like being with God. I don't want to actually do most of these things. That's the surrender is I just want to go within. That's the point when you start to taste the experience of truth. You go into this awareness state where you're unidentified with any of it. You don't really like coming down to identification again. You don't like it. Because why would you choose a limited version of your experience when you can have an expansive internal version? So I go to this party and, I'm sitting there. I don't know what's going to come from this. Everyone's drinking, everyone's this. I'm sitting there. I'm just doing my thing. And I'm talking to this one guy. I'm not even having a second thought of this one guy. I don't even know who he is. He seems like a regular dude. And I'm talking to him. I come to find out he is a high level executive. What seems like a part owner, I could be wrong, of a very famous resort. They have 13 different islands. I have no idea. They do $7 billion in revenue every year. 14,000 employees. I had no idea who I'm talking to. This is what I mean by surrendering. You don't know. And I just start talking about this one guy because we start talking about AI and stuff. I'm like, yeah, this one guy made this crazy product. His eyes light up. He's like, I want to know what that is. I said, oh, okay. Well, here's how it works. He's like, dude, I can use that. I have 14,000 employees. I said, sure, I'll put you in a group chat. He's like, I'm going to make sure that guy pays you a finder's fee. I'm like, dude, don't worry. He's fine. He's like, no. We're going to make sure you get a finder's fee because I'm most likely going to pay this guy. I pay millions of dollars on development every month. So I'm like, okay, man, thank you. And then I put him in a chat with the guy I'm helping that also was adamant to work with me somehow to give me money. And who knows what the sales deal size would be and what the cut would be. I don't, I caught my mind there's thinking, oh my God, what 14,000 employees times this money? What if I get a huge fucking pay? I don't do that, man. Because I remember, did I make that happen? Did I get that guy to call me to get himself on my counter? Did I meet this guy at the party? Because I didn't. None of my achieving energy helped me do any of this. So when you stop being so arrogant to think you can run your own life, you allow God to start showing you what you're capable of. So money is just sitting here. I'm sure millions of dollars are just waiting, bursting behind the door, and it's going to come in exactly when I need it. And even when it comes, maybe this has helped because I've tasted millions already, but I'll know when it comes. I will feel no different. That's the work I've done. I don't care. Same way I don't care if I have no money. Far too long in this world, how much money you have has been the God to tell you who you are. This has to change.
And within that, you said something about like because of the fact that you've tasted that before. Do you think that has a factor to how you're living your life now, or could you have started this when you were 20 years old?
It has a factor, obviously. It'd be stupid for me to deny that. But it's not responsible for it. Even before I made all my money, I was like this. I was a milder version of it. I spent 8 months on a self-discovery journey after I was a sales guy and I made some good money at my age then. That was when I was 18. I spent about 8 months into the spiritual journey. I was serving Abraham Hicks, Kevin Trudeau. I would go on long walks. I sit in the middle of a forest and just feel good now. And then weird shit would happen, like someone would pay for my gas, or like little tiny miracles would happen. It was funny. That was when I really started to realize, like, oh, within me, there's a magic. So I was already like this. I just didn't have the full blown experience of how I am now, which is only the beginning, I realized. But at that time, what brought me to my knees is how ashamed I felt because I owed money to family and all this stuff. It was a little bit of money, but to me back then I was like, fuck. Why? I just want to be successful. See, even back then, and even a little recently as well, I was always saying, if I could do all this, then I'll have money. See, money was always the end goal for me. Finally, I've released myself of this kind of imprison. Now I really do this because I want to, because I understand it's the truth. I have no expectation of means out of it. Even if God turned around today and said, you're going to go be a no one in the middle of somewhere in some poor country, I'll say, all right. If that really is my karma for this life, if that's what's meant to happen, then I trust you. Because he'll know I'll be at peace more there than I could be anywhere else doing anything else. So I trust. It just so happens that in this life, I accumulated lots of skills, and I came from a world of entrepreneurs where maybe this kind of stuff is foreign to them. So maybe, just maybe, I've been picked to do this kind of work, this unique kind of work in this kind of world because I relate to all of you guys. Sometimes it crosses my mind. I go, okay, cool. So I might be going back into business soon, but I'm going to have to come with the Spirit of God, or now I'm not going to come as who I was. So, and I don't want to do that. Another realization I recently had, I've ran away from business because I hated my own ego in it. I really didn't like myself. And so I'm so afraid of going back into it. And then I realized, wow, surrender really means even doing that. So if God calls me and says, go start a business again, I'm like, fuck, fine. And some people will say, no, it's because you want to make money. I go, no, I don't care. There's nothing more worth. There's nothing worth it. All the money in the world is not worth knowing I have a stillness of knowing myself from within it, and I am at peace. Like nothing's greater than peace, which is to know God. So maybe that'll happen. So I know I might, and me, I know I'm meant to do something really big in this life, and that's all I know. So I'm just opening. I say, God, show me. I don't know. Tomorrow might look different. At any moment, your life can change. At any moment, you have one meeting, meet one person, have one moment, everything can change. So is it not foolish to sit there and try to plan it all, thinking the moment and trying to create? See, this is the person who's addicted with the idea of having a destiny. Destiny comes from the word destination. There's some place you want to reach, and the way you control your destiny is through your choices. This is the ego's path. Not that saying having your own free will is your ego's path. No, it's surrendering your will to a higher consciousness, to God. Mm-hmm. This is what reveals to you your fate. Fate means you already had a contract with God before you came in this world, and you made it with him. You just forgot. So he goes, if you want in this life, I have an open door invitation. At any time you want, you use that free will, you go this way, and I'll show you what you actually want it to be. Some people are scared of that because they think I have no control. Fate means it's predestined for me, and there's some higher thing that's making me do stuff. No, it's you that you predetermined your own fate. But you had to remember that. So surrender takes you to the path of fate. What was actually meant for me? And so if I'm honest with myself, I look at the last 10 years, I always knew inside I was meant to do something in the realm with God. I knew I had to be teaching. I knew I'd be speaking to lots of people. That's all I ever knew inside me. And then when I look in my life, I tried to find versions of that in everything I did. When I was in network marketing, I'll go even earlier. When I was in high school, I'd sign up for talent shows, and I learned how to be talented. I learned how to sing and rap and beatbox. Because why? I wanted to be on a stage because my soul was trying to find its way back to what it knows I'm meant to be doing. Now it's not singing, but it meant to be speaking to people, being in the eye so I can help people, guide people with something, and bring in an expression of God, which is all of our goals, all of our purpose. Then from there, I went into sales. I thought if I become the top salesperson, I'll be the sales manager. Sales manager has a stage in the morning to teach. How stupid. But this is how I thought. Mm-hmm. Now I see, I go, oh, I wanted to be the leader in that room. because something my soul says I'm meant to be at the top, at the front of the room to help others. Then I went into network marketing. I realized if I hit a certain rank, they'll give me recognition, I can speak. And all of me always inside knew that I wouldn't go up there and speak about the success or speak about business, speak about what I did, but something in me knew I had a message I had to share within my heart. I just didn't know until I get there. Mm-hmm. So when that didn't work out, I went back into sales, try to be the top person. Then I said, let me start my own business. And I saw Tony Robbins. I saw he made his own audience. I still remember detailed what made me make these decisions. I'm so aware of it now. Now I understand what Armin was doing his whole life. When I saw Tony Robbins, I decided to be a coach. I thought, this is it. You know, thought process came into my head. If I can't find the audience, I'll build the audience. So I thought this kid was he was 19 years old. He didn't even know anything. He made me believe I can be exactly what he is. And I thought I'll spend the rest of my life getting to where he is right now, which is 11,000 people in a room, and he's speaking and he's teaching, helping people heal and know who the God is. Well, really, he was being an expression of awakening, but he was teaching science, which was cool. It was still not exactly what I meant to do, but it was closest thing I ever found, which is why for the next 3 years or for the last 8 years, I dedicate to being coaching. Well, really for the first 3 or 4 years, 3 years, I only did it for coaching, like helping people. And I was helping people within like 60 days. I was helping people with depression, suicide. I did all the same work he used to do. And I didn't take any of his courses, nothing. I just went with my soul. I'm like, I want to do this. I cared. And I thought I could build the audience that one day I can have a lot of people I can speak to because I knew, something in me knew. It was the weirdest thing. Something in me just knew. I didn't know how, I just knew. As long as I get the mic and I'm on the stage and there's an audience in front of me, I know what I'll be meant to say there. And it was the weirdest thing I could never explain. I just knew. And all these other distractions that were trying to make me speak about other stuff, share other messages, be in front of different audiences, they're all distractions. This whole time I thought I had to make my fate happen. I realized, no, God does. So, and then I got distracted by business. I looked at all the business guys, like, the Russells, and I thought if I'm biggest business, then I'll have a huge stage. And from that place, I'll tell people what life is about, what God wants me to tell them. It's weird as shit, man. And I got there and I was quite an example and an inspiration to many people. But then I identified myself with the success instead of the reason why I did it. I became my ego took over. I identified myself with being a millionaire instead of knowing that I was really just being an example of what's possible. That's really what I want to show people, that look what's possible, guys. We're more than all of this. It's like that I'm that one big brother running around in the world trying to wake all my siblings up like, guys, remember, God's real and like he's making all this happen and we're all love and we're all much more than all this. Like, wake up. So I always my soul was finding its way through the cracks of my very strong ego and mind. Finally, the dissolution and the failure and the crumbling of all of these things that were not me came crashing down. And for the first time, I reached such a low that I could really consider, what if I don't try a sixth time getting up? A sixth time making myself believe that this is the one. 5 businesses I did. I really made myself believe this is the one. This is what I'm meant to do in my life. I was trying to control my own destiny. Fuck all of that, man. I'm serious. Like it leads you nowhere. It leads you to a false illusion of who you think you are, and just your waves are much further away from the ocean of where the real truth is. So finally, I'm in a place where I thought, what's there to lose if I really surrendered? I'm like, I already don't make too much money anymore because I reached that point because I was not aligned with the business. It was hard to make money. How am I supposed to sell shit that I don't actually feel like I can do? And when I start to surrender and I start to just give it all away for free and just not care too much about who I am at the end, I lost who myself is in the middle of all of it. So it became selfless. I start to really feel peace again. I felt guided. I felt really guided. I didn't feel like I had to know anymore. So I hope you forgive me when I told you the thing I couldn't really answer your espresso vision, your vision espresso, is because I just can't anymore go to the place. I would have to deliberately lie through my mouth and make it up. I cannot go to the place where I have to pretend like I think I know what I want or what's for me. And it doesn't mean it's bad to do it. It just means I'm in a different place now. That's all. Some people, that's perfect for them because I needed that for a long time to take myself out of the poverty I was in, to make myself believe in myself. But I really just worked that hard to believe in myself just to realize I am more than myself.
Mm.
So is it the only way? I don't know. I don't know. I think some people, God just plucks you out of the side. You don't have to climb the ladder. But for me, that was the way. So I would have been like this anyways, eventually. I just don't know how much wisdom I would have had that relates to people of the world of success. Because you can't look me in the eye and tell me I don't understand when I built multiple businesses.
Mhm.
So there's an audience of people now I can speak to with some level of credibility because you can't sit here and tell me I'm a fucking hippie and I'm just making stuff up. You can't. So I know God made that a very strategic move there because I can speak to you from a place of someone who's built it, made it, won it, and I can still tell you none of it matters. So maybe then some people that wouldn't have listened if I was just a kid living with his mom, and his family who just realized the universal truths of the cosmos and was telling you this, it'd be like, yeah, but I have bills, I have family, I have business, I have this. You don't understand. I go, no, no, no. I understand now.
Well, yeah, so much yes in that, everything that you were just explaining. And
Everybody say so much yes in that. That's funny.
we, I mean, shit, we could go for hours upon hours.
Yeah.
But we'll start wrapping it up here. But one thing I was gonna say, even just like with your last point of talking about the credibility, and I think about how God has really started getting my attention in life. And so it's like I think that's kind of like the human experience. I think when for the majority of people, I think it's just kind of a people believe people of stature, of credibility, of authority more. And if you were just living at your in your mom's basement, like people wouldn't listen to you as much, generally speaking.
Unfortunately.
Like
Unfortunately.
I can just relate it from my perspective is like the fact that you have been successful, the fact that, you know, you got introduced from a person that I hold in high regard. Like it makes me listen to you more and I'm more intrigued with that. And I think every step of my journey that God has started coming into my life more, it comes from more credible sources. Where I'm like,
Hmm.
oh, that person has a life, or at least was at one portion of their life, one season of their life is a version of a life that I feel called to,
Hmm.
right? And so I think that's kind of the interesting point is I think it is also kind of beautiful. Is like God is very strategic, where He's like, all right, people aren't getting it the way I first started, so I'm gonna build the credibility and make these people quote unquote successful in business or whatever it is, so that more people will start listening to it.
Yeah, possibly. And the reason is because this world isn't owned by God. It's owned by the intellect, the ego.
Hmm.
So, which is the sad truth. The world is a dome of the mental plane. The mind is more powerful than God in this world because we worship the mind before God. Think about it. Whenever you're in a pickle, you don't go to God. You go to your own head. What should I do? Does that make sense? Yeah, it doesn't make sense. I should do this. So we worship our own minds without even knowing we are not our mind. So yes, if the person who created the house is coming to visit the ones living inside, he has to come in a form that is socially acceptable so that they can at least let them through the front door. And sometimes it looks like that I need to speak and act and be a certain way that you can relate to. And for some people, they'll look up to. And all of this is just in the head. But at least the message comes through. I realize this, and it comes in different ways. In fact, I learned a lot through my spiritual journey so far. Is God will show up in the form that you are the most comfortable with. That's his why there are different religions.
Hmm.
Explanation right there. There's a good story of a group of blind men. Did I tell you this one? It's a group of blind men that encounter a huge elephant. And each of these blind men can put a hand on this elephant to try to explain to the other person what the elephant is like.
Okay.
So one of them touches the trunk and they go, guys, the elephant is like a long, uh, wall, like a big rope. And he goes, it's magnificent. They can't see it, just touching it. One of them is touching the husk. And he goes, no, guys, the elephant is a sharp wooden husk. The other one's touching the side of the elephant. He goes, guys, the elephant's a brick wall. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, look. And the other one's touching the tail in the back. He goes, no, it's like a string. Elephant's like a string. So they all walk away from this elephant, not agreeing on what the elephant is. They all make their different banners with the different parts of the elephant. And thus religion was born. It's how it's born, right?
That's
All
like,
the different parts of the same body.
well, amazing, man. I really appreciate your time. One last thing. What would you love for people to take away from this conversation?
Know that you are more than the very thing that is helping you manifest all that you want. And when you want to know what that more is, go into stillness. Sit so still until you lose the feelings in your legs. And sit so long until you realize you are not the voice in the mind talking and it quiets down. And then you will know what you are.
Well said. Well, brother, I appreciate your time. Is there any call to actions here?
No, that just remember God loves us all, and the fact that you're very much alive and the heart is beating. And the only reason why the heart is beating is because of the oxygen going into it. The only reason why there's oxygen going in is because you're breathing. And so in Hebrew, the name for God is Yahweh, spelled YHWH. It's because it's the only word that you can say where your mouth doesn't touch when you say it. It's because it's not a word at all, Yahweh. It's actually an action. It's the action of breath. So the name of God is in the very breath of our life. So the very breath that is feeding oxygen to the heart that can beat without even your brain functioning, which means you are more than your brain and your mind, is the name of God. And so God is the very source of your existence, which is more than your own mind and your beliefs and your dogmas and your past and your future and your limitations and your name and everything that you think you are. So just remember, there's no other love like God's love. Nothing in this physical existence, not even in the mental plane, could ever equate to the very love of God that is living within us. And I am not even religious, I'm telling you this. It's just something you realize when you sit still enough and you know peace.
Great conversation, man. I appreciate you.
Until next time.